Good morning. Good afternoon, I'm sorry, yes. Welcome to this extraordinary meeting of the Cabinet of Portsmouth City Council, whose main job it is to pass a report on to Council for later tonight. So, but in terms of housekeeping rules, we're not expecting a fire alarm, so if there is one, it's real and we're outside and it's being live streamed, so anybody who's not a councillor or a council officer, if you come and sit at the front, you will be, your back of your head will be visible to the world. Or at least those members of the world who watch Portsmouth City Council Cabinet meetings as their recreational activity. Welcome. So, just to run through the agenda, which now, where's the agenda bit of my agenda? Thank you. Apologies. We have got apologies from Lynn, from Matt, from Darren and Rob, and do we think from Susie? David, you thought from Susie as well, but anyway. Any declarations of interest? Nope. Forward plan emission, this is a new proposal that has come up and it's been approved by the chair of SMT, which stands for?
Security Management Panel.
Excellent.
Councillor Wood.
Okay, so that's the reason it is here. It wasn't expected. So let's go on to item 4, which is the issue of the day. So, Tom Southall, would you, as our head of property, would you like to just quickly talk us through where we are?
I've worked it out. Thank you, Leader. Yes, of course.
The button that says on.
Yes, yeah, quite clear. Thank you. So the report you have in front of you today sets out the opportunity for the Council to acquire the out-of-town business park, Lakeside North Harbour. Now, the report is obviously in two parts, as this needs to be passed on to full Council for the financial implications. I understand that later today at full Council there will be a presentation put to members on this, which will obviously go through as a bit of an update and give a little bit more detail than this report can currently cover. What I would point out, and the bits to highlight, in part of the background section, sections 3.7 to 3.10, we start to give some of the justification for why this site is so important, and the ownership could give a unique opportunity for the council to influence the development of the city, the influence of the city centre and the wider economic impact. I'd be happy to take any questions. Alternative, Chris might wish to give something on the financial side.
Chris, do you want to talk money?
So just to update you on the financial side, obviously when we prepared this report, obviously it was a week or so ago now, and things are moving every day. As you know, we're not fully through the due diligence yet, and we won't be through the due diligence for some time. But I think the important thing to stress is that the financial evaluation within this report is based on a long-term regeneration asset. So it's based on a period of over 35 years. It's based on the asset being held both for financial reasons for the council, but also for economic reasons for the city. It has not been prepared as an investment asset or a long-term investment asset, which is the other end of the spectrum where you would just hold it for a financial return for the council. What we seek to do later on in the briefing to council members is show you both ends of the spectrum so that you can see what it would look like based on what we've provided to date as a regeneration asset, but updated with the most up-to-date financials, but also what it could look like as an investment asset so that it should demonstrate that the council will have good flexibility to manage that asset over time under a number of different scenarios. That's all I had to say. If there are any questions, happy to answer.
Okay, thanks, Chris. I think that'll be very helpful. And as you say, this is developing all the time, and more information is arriving, and that's useful before we come to a final decision. And from my point of view, it seems to be there is the real potential to make this an incredibly important and powerful economic asset within the city, and to drive economic regeneration in the city through that. I think that's a huge opportunity, but in reality, the council could make the decision in future years they're just going to drive it as an income, as an investment opportunity. We're not going into this in a short-term basis. This is a long-term decision, and it will be for people other than me to make those decisions in future years. But I think I personally would like to add one additional recommendation to the Cabinet in terms of the recommendations here, because the Cabinet can make decisions about some of the purchase stuff, but actually it needs to all be approved by full council. So, and as it's a long-term asset that the council is going to be holding, it seems to me this is more like MMD than other things. And MMD is held as something where we have a cross-party board that's in charge of it, and that's very good. Susie, welcome. So I'd like to add an extra recommendation that says that a cross-party board be established as the governing entity to oversee the overall strategic management of the lakeside asset. So that it's written in at the beginning that that's what the intention would be. Susie, can I ask, have you got any interests you want to declare?
No, and apologies for being late.
As always, it's lovely to see you. Okay, colleagues, anybody else like to contribute now before we get to full council? Steve.
Thank you, Leader. Just to add really that it's very important that we have that discussion in a full council meeting. It's something that as a long-term strategic asset, there will be undoubtedly different views on this over time, and getting the view of full council is therefore very important. Hopefully its support. I agree that the strategic possibilities of this site are absolutely crucial, especially for the north of the city, but for the city's regeneration as a whole, and having that flexibility ourselves to drive the way that develops over time is crucially important. The alternative, of course, would be to allow the market to behave freely and for the sale to go to someone else, and that could have long-term implications around employment space, housing density and other things that somebody else might have a completely different vision for that site than the council will, and would not therefore necessarily enable the level of public engagement and consultation that we as a council will be able to engage in making sure that we shape this in the best interest of the citizens of Portsmouth. So I'll support the recommendations, especially with the addition of the extra one, because this is something that should involve all parties at every stage, and hope that full council come to an agreeable decision later.
Mr. Ashmore.
Thank you. Just to echo your words, I think, a strategic site like this and the importance of it does need to be something that's debated and discussed with the wider council. One of the things that struck me here is that it could be an opportunity for us. We've noticed it's a strategic place. It's got good history on it. It's right outside the city. It could be something to invest in, but also the environmental impacts on that. If we become lessers of such a place like this, we might be able to have influence over things like the infrastructure that's put there and the contracts that are given there. So something like that really appeals to me. I think it's something we should consider when this is up for debate later.
Okay, colleagues, I think we just have to come to a conclusion now, and there are serious recommendations, most of which are sending things on to full council to ask increasing borrowing requirements and things like that. And colleagues, are you happy to do that? Yes? Yep.
Agreed as amended.
Okay, with the amendment, thank you very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Chris, that's it, isn't it? You don't need anything else from us. Okay, thank you very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen, for coming today.